I'm going to talk today about connect groups. Now, I want to start off with just the obvious, because maybe you just walked in here today for the first time and you have never heard about the word connect groups. And then this whole sermon is going to sound a little bit strange if I'm going to talk about connect group, and you have no idea what that is. Just a little bit of context. In this church, we also meet in smaller groups. So we have a Sunday service where you're here, welcome. You know the Sunday service, but we also have connect groups where we meet in smaller groups, usually 4 to 8 people, and it's a lot more interactive. We talk, we ask questions, we share life, doubts, questions, answers, experiences, and we kind of learn from each other doing so. That is connect groups. Okay, good. So if you've never been to a connect group, now you know at least a little bit what that is. Today I also want to talk about why. Why, if we as a church want to make disciples and raise leaders, why do we do connect groups? Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but for the last 8 years, I've been working in marketing. Some of you like, marketing. I like it. And one of the first rules of marketing is if you explain something, if you want to sell your product, if you want to convince people, you don't just talk about how great you are, you talk about the solution for the person listening, right? So for example, if I'm selling sneakers, it would not be good for me to tell you my sneakers are the best because I use this type of, sole, rubber, fabric. That's why my shoes are good. The better thing to do for me would be, if you use these shoes, you will run really fast. So instantly you understand as a customer, oh, that's why I should buy these shoes, because I want to run fast, I need these shoes. Why am I saying this? It's because instinctively, intuitively, when people ask us why connect groups, we kind of want to convince them to come, and so we tell all of the amazing things that happen in connect group. Do you want community? Connect group is really good for that. Do you want to know more about Jesus? Connect group is really good to that. So we explain all of the advantages that each of you will have when you join a connect group. And all of these are true, by the way. This is not a marketing scheme. All of these are true. If you join a connect group, you will find community and you will learn about Jesus. But today, I wanted to make it bigger, because I don't want you to be customers. I don't want you to be consumers of church. I really want you to be participants in God's kingdom. Because the more I read my Bible, the more I start to realize this is not about me, and this is not about you, this is not about Tabitha, this is not about Johnny, who's distracted. This is, sorry for calling you out. This is about something bigger. There's a bigger story I want to tell today. So where should I start? Maybe in the beginning. And now the people in production think, oh goodness, this is going to be a long sermon. If you start in the beginning, don't worry, this part will be short. If we go back to the beginning, God created everything in the beginning. And he saw it was good. He made humans, and he saw it was very good. But then sin happened. Sin came into the world, and there was a separation between man and God. And that's why when you look outside, not everything is exactly good or very good. There's a lot of mess outside because sin happened in the world and there was a separation between man and God. Luckily, God had a plan. He would send his son Jesus to the earth to walk this earth fully God, fully human. Jesus laid down his life, taking on the cost of sin, paying that for all of us, so that we can have a relationship with God again. So that a relationship between creation and God could be restored. He rose from the dead to fix what was broken. And so that his kingdom could come. And now you're all very confused. Okay, Laura, you just explained the gospel. Why? Because let's be honest, that's where it starts. All of our whys start with the gospel. Why are we here today? It's because Jesus rose from the dead. If Jesus had not risen from the dead, none of you would be here, or at least I hope for you, none of you would be here. There's a lot of different things you could be doing on a Sunday morning, like sleeping. But we are here because Jesus rose from the dead. The empty tomb expects a reaction from us. If Jesus died and rose for all of us, then how do we respond? If God is building his kingdom today, then how do we get to participate? And there's two things I could be talking about today. There's the commandments, and the greatest two of them that Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor. And there's the Great Commission. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. The Great Commission is like a big term, but it's when Jesus rose from the dead and he met his disciples, and before he went to heaven, he gave them a mission. He gave them something to do. And what is that? We see that in, wow, that is, good. I thought it was very blurry. It's Matthew 28, right at the end of the book. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to follow all that I commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. So he's giving his disciples a mission, something to do. I'm going back to heaven, you do this. And just a little pause, because I love it. At the end, he says, I am with you always to the end of the age. He gave them a commission, but he also gave them a promise. Like, you don't have to do this alone, I'm with you. That promise is for us today as well. He's with us. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by the first part, remember, Jesus is with you. But let's look at our part. Let's look at what Jesus wants us to do. Make disciples. Laura, what is a disciple? I've never heard of that term. Let me explain. Because disciple is a word that we usually use only within a church context. I don't know about you, but I have never heard someone say, oh, he's a disciple, without the context of church. But back then, it was a lot more neutral term. You see, if you wanted to get good at something, if you wanted to learn a craft, get a job, you would learn from a master, someone who is really good at something, someone who is masterful, who mastered their craft. So you become a student or an apprentice, and you would follow that person, look at what they do, try to imitate them, ask questions, try for yourself, fail a little bit, get taught a bit more. And within that relationship of master-student, you would hone in on your skills, and you would get better and better until one day you master this craft. And the same idea was within the context of a rabbi having students and teaching them the Torah. And we see in the Bible that Jesus' disciples call him rabbi, teacher. So they were there to learn from Jesus. They were apprentices, students, words that we maybe use a little bit more today than disciple. Okay, so we know what a disciple is. Now, making disciple and discipleship. What does that look like? Well, luckily the verse goes further and it explains to us a bit. Make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And most of you probably have heard this exact sentence, because in 2 weeks, before we dunk someone in the water, we say this: I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But it is more than just that sentence that we say before you enter the water. And I want to talk about the smallest word in that whole part, in. Because in the Greek, eis, I don't know, saying that wrong, that really means into. Not like a in general, but into something. So it conveyed the message of you are bringing someone into the covenant with God, into relationship. You baptize them into the Father and the Son and the Spirit. You bring them into covenant, into the family of God, really. So making disciples is bringing people into relationship with God. Being a disciple is being into relationship with God. And then it says, teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Now, I put here, discipleship is teaching and learning how to live like Jesus? And I'm saying explicitly learning because maybe you are really good at obeying everything he has commanded you, but I for sure am not perfect at that at all. I have a lot to learn still. And I am very confident actually that all of you also have. If someone says to me, oh, I don't need discipleship, I'm like, are you sure? Because I think there's a lot to learn from Jesus. I don't think we're ever done learning to be like Jesus. I think there's always parts in our heart that just need a little bit of change, a little bit of transformation. And it means also to teach others what Jesus commanded and how do we practice that? How do we apply what Jesus said? So discipleship, relationship with God, and learning from Jesus. Discipleship without the relationship is just a lecture. I don't know about university today, but when I was in university, we didn't have a relationship with our professor. It was just the guy or the woman in front, and during 3 hours, you would try to absorb as much of the information that they were throwing out there. And you try to write it all down and learn it, but you didn't have a relationship with the professor. I didn't even know their first names. And that's a lecture. You try to gather information. But knowledge is good, but if it's only knowledge, it does nothing. You can know a lot about Jesus, but do you know Jesus? Like, you could talk to my husband for a full day and he will talk about me a lot of wonderful and less wonderful things, but unless you talk to me, you don't really know me. It's the same with Jesus. We can learn all about him. Unless we pray and talk with him, we don't know him. And you can learn all of the verses, but unless you allow God to work that in you, nothing will change. I can remember, not me personally, someone could memorize all of the verses about gossip and recite them by heart instantly, and that would be very impressive. But unless they allow Jesus to work in their heart, they will be reciting verses and gossiping at the same time. Discipleship is not a lecture. It needs relationship. On the other side, if it's only relationship and no learning, then we have fellowship. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lord of the Rings and the Fellowship of the Ring, but these were a bunch of people coming together. They had a shared mission, but they didn't really learn all that much. Or let me put it this way, this is not a movie about Gandalf, the great wizard, sitting everyone down and teaching them how to be wizards. That is not the Fellowship of the Ring. Discipleship needs learning, needs transformation, needs growth. Let me also say, discipleship is not from one person. If you're in my Connect group, you're not my disciple. None of you will ever be my disciples. You're disciples of Jesus. The teaching happens by Jesus. You're following Jesus. You're not following me. You're not learning how to be more like me. Thank goodness for that. Everyone agrees, yes. You're learning to be more like Jesus. As a Connect group leader, my job is to keep that focus. I'm there to make sure that we're all still focused on Jesus and we're not all over the place. We're not just having a good, great barbecue. We're still focused on Jesus. Good. Now you're all convinced that we should be disciples and make disciples because Jesus calls us to. Comes still the question, okay, but then why Connect groups? Why not a different way? Because Jesus and his disciples, if you look at them, it could kind of look like a Connect group, right? 12 guys. with Jesus, learning in a smaller group, asking questions, sharing life, being themselves. That comes pretty close to what we would call Connect Group today. And Jesus did this intentionally. He could have done it differently. He could have picked out one guy and say, when I go to heaven, you'll be my successor. I will pour everything I have into you, and you're going to do it after me. That is not what happened. We see that with Moses and Joshua. He gives over to one person. Joshua was going to conquer the promised land, but Jesus chose to do a group of 12. And then we could also say Jesus could be so much more productive. He could have multiplied so much more if only he had like a discipleship track of 1 year, and after 1 year, those 12 move out and the different 12 come in. And then he would have had 36 disciples instead of 12, which is times 3. That's a lot. But that would have been superficial. That wouldn't have allowed the relationships to build strong, because these men needed transformation. They needed that time with Jesus. So he lived with them. He laughed with them. They saw him cry. They saw him dance. They saw him make jokes. Can we just for a second, how cool does that sound? To sit with Jesus and make jokes. Jesus was fully man as well. He had hands and feet. He had an accent. People made sometimes fun of the weird accent that he had. That's crazy. And to know him like that, to get to sit next to him and say, Jesus, explain that to me again, please. That sounds awesome. These guys did that. And we are forever a little bit jealous. So if Jesus discipled in smaller groups, or like in one small group, then what can we learn from that for our Connect groups? What lessons can we draw from the way that Jesus discipled? These were very different, very messy people. If you had to gather a bunch of people today for your Connect group, I bet that never would they be so different as these 12 men were. They had different backgrounds, different opinions, different social statuses. I imagine it must have been messy. There was Matthew the tax collector, and if you don't know what that means, it means that he worked with the Romans and was seen by the Jews as a betrayer of his people because he was working with the enemy. It also meant that doing so, he would have earned good money. He was well off. And on the opposite side, there's Simon the Zealot. And zealot is a political term. He was a political activist who hated the Romans. And yet you see him in the same group as a tax collector. That's like saying today that you have a sustainability activist who now has to work together with someone who works for a big oil company. You can imagine those conversations gonna be a little bit tough. There's gonna be some tension. And then there was Peter and Andrew, who were fishermen, and I don't know their financial situation. I'm guessing they weren't very poor because they had a boat and Peter had a house. So let's say they were kind of middle class, but they still had to work hard day and night, hard work to just earn money. Whereas Matthew, the tax collector, by betraying his own people, got paid well. So that as well might have been some tension. And then there was James and John, who were called sons of thunder. Now, I haven't done extensive research on what that means, what people would have understood back then, but I think it's safe to say that it wasn't probably that they were calm, nice, loving people who never raised their voices. I'm guessing it's not that. I'm guessing they had quite the character. So you can see this is a group of diverse people with all different backgrounds and opinions. And yet they came together because they wanted to learn from Jesus. Learning from Jesus for them was more important than their differences. And when we join a Connect group, sometimes instinctively we want to join a group of people who are like us, who think the same things, who have the same hobbies, so that we can It's easier to connect with people who think the same as us. But let's be honest, if you're sitting in a group with people who think exactly the same, very quickly it becomes a matter of like, yes, very interesting. I think the exact same. How smart of you. And you don't really learn. You're just nodding in a circle. So yes, it's important if you join a connect group that there's a click. There's absolutely no shame if you go to a connect group and you say, I don't really click with these people. I find it really hard to be myself, to be open, to feel good in this group. No shame, we are all different people. But I also encourage you to push through that a little bit. Don't settle for a group that is exactly like you. Find the challenge of people who are just a little bit different from you, because God made us to be different. God made us all unique. We all have a different perspective. We all have different experiences, and we learn from that. I don't think she's here today, but I don't know if you know Lisa. She is the person behind the Connect Group wall upstairs. So if you see her, tell her that she's doing an amazing job. Give her the best praise you can. Because Lisa is a good friend of mine, and she's amazing at doing things like the Connect Group wall. She's amazing at making things beautiful, and she's also very much not like me. We are very different. You see, if you come to my house, for me, I love it if you feel comfortable enough to just open my cupboards, take a glass of water, and sit down. I love it if you come home to me and say, what snacks are we having today? I love it if you feel comfortable enough for that. If you go to Lisa, we had a brunch not too long ago, and it is mind-blowing to me how thoughtful she is. You come in, and first of all, there's no dishes in the sink like in my house, and everything is put out so beautifully. There were little jars for the jam with our yogurt. She pours in herself to make us feel welcome, to make us feel pampered, to make us feel special. And that is beautiful. It is not my skill set, but it is her, and it reminds me that God loves details. It reminds me that God also wants to make us feel home and welcome, and she is so good at that. And so I learn from her. She inspires me to be more thoughtful. She inspires me to look more at those smaller details. But if I only meet up with people who are exactly like me, we'll have messy houses and all say, it's fine. And we will never be inspired to be different. These men were also friends. Now, it's a bit of a loose term I'm using here, because yes, they were friends, they lived together, they did life together. That doesn't mean that they always got along perfectly. I'm guessing the Sons of Thunders had sometimes fights, but they lived with one another, and they knew each other well. They knew exactly what to say to get under the skin of the other person, and they knew exactly what to say to encourage one another. Just like I know with my husband, if I say this, it's gonna annoy him so badly. And I also say, no, if he's having a bad day, if I say this, he's gonna feel better very quickly. That's what happens when you get to know each other. You know what makes someone tick, you know the messy parts and the good parts. And that also happens in Connect Group. We get to know one another. And some of you here are very excited about that. You like making new friends, you like getting to know people, and some of you find that kind of scary. Because the more you look into someone else's life, they also get to see into yours. If you come to my Connect Group, you will see the mess that is in my house. You will see the toys scattered around my house, and you will see the mess that is in my heart when I lose my patience and maybe yell at my son. And you will see all of the messy parts, but I inevitably will also see some of your messy parts. I will also see the mess in your heart. In a Sunday service, you can sit there and observe, and you can listen to the sermon and think, this is not for me, my neighbor. He really needs this. And you sit and you observe. But in Connect Group, you can't. There's no being passive. You participate in Connect Group. You see into people's life, and you let people look into yours as well. And that is a little bit scary. But trust me, it's not like you come into Connect Group and the Connect Group leader instantly is going to say, this is your sin, change now. I know the Connect Group leaders, they're all very nice people. They will not do that to you. But inevitably, if you talk to people, you will see yourself differently. And it's like a mirror being held up. And all of a sudden you see parts of yourself that you didn't see before. It's like when I gave birth to my son almost 4 years ago now, I had to have an emergency C-section. And for the longest time, I was going in my mind through everything that had happened that day, and I was recalling, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong that it had to lead to this? And it felt like I had failed God. What did I do wrong to God to have an emergency C-section? Did I not pray enough? Was I not, connected to God enough during the birth? Did I make a wrong decision? Where did I go wrong that this happened? And then I talked to Tabitha, just on a random evening, and she asked me, how was birth? Tell me. And I tell my story, and I also tell her that we had to make some decisions, but even though there was a little bit of chaos, I felt peaceful with these decisions. The very first thing she says is not, such a pity you had to have a C-section. It was, wow, what a blessing that God gave you peace. And instantly, my view changed. I instantly realized I had been making this about myself. What had I done wrong? How did I fail God? And by focusing on myself, I had completely lost sight of the blessings that God had for me that day. Now for the doctors here, I don't know if there's doctors, maybe some of the decisions me or my doctor made led to a C-section. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that's not the point. The point was not a medical issue. It was me feeling like I had failed God. And by focusing on my failure, I had forgotten to see the blessings of God. And Tabitha didn't say, Laura, you are doing something wrong. You're not seeing God's blessings. It was just by being herself. It just came out of her mouth, wow. That's how she is. She just sees the blessings of God. And by that, a mirror was held up to me and I saw my own heart. These men, as wild as they were very passionate about following Jesus. They wanted to understand and apply what Jesus was teaching. I'm not saying they were good students, but let's take into account they left everything behind to follow Jesus. Their boats, their house, their family, their hopes and dreams, plans, left behind and followed Jesus, because following Jesus for them was more important than all of that. And we see them throughout the Gospels taking Jesus aside and saying, Jesus, what does that mean? Can you explain it to us? Jesus, can you teach us to pray? How do we do this? What do you mean? They had a lot of questions. We can even see Jesus sometimes getting a little bit frustrated. Do you not understand now? But they were trying to understand. They came to Jesus and wanted to hear from him. Can we do the same in Connect Group? Can we come to Connect Group expecting to hear from God, expecting to learn from Jesus? Can we come without our own preconceptions, come to learn from Jesus? Can we read the Bible, not to look for confirmation of what we already believe, but to learn from Jesus? Because yes, probably these guys also went to Jesus and said, Jesus, tell the guy I'm right. But they listened to him more. They loved what Jesus said more than that they loved to be right. Can we say the same thing? Can we love learning from Jesus more than we love to be right? Because when we talk about Jesus, when we learn from him, when we read the Bible, some of the things that we already believe will also be challenged. And I remember when Simon, my husband now, and I started dating, and in the early years of our marriage as well, Simon, he was raised a Christian. He was raised in a Christian family. He was raised with the Bible, went to Sunday school. So he he thought he knew a lot of things already. And then I come along, and with every single thing this man told me, I was like, where does it say that in the Bible? How do you know for sure? Where? Give me the verses. And it probably drove him a little bit crazy in the beginning. He was like, Laura, can you just not do this to me right now? Can you just not challenge every single thing I'm saying? I learned this in Sunday school, okay? It is true, I know it. Yes, but where does it say it in the Bible? Not everyone was going to be like that in Connect Group. Not everyone is going to be as annoying as I was. But can we come with honest hearts, hoping to hear from Jesus, whatever it is that he's asking of us, without preconception, I just want to hear myself confirmed. Because that's how we will learn. And then the last one, these men were sent out. This was a group close to Jesus, but they didn't stay small within their group, exclusive. This is just our club. They were sent out. We read Jesus putting them into pairs and sending out. Take the clothes that you have on your back and go. I have given you authority. Go tell the people about me. Pray for them. Heal them. Do miracles in my name. Go out. And then later they came back and told him everything. And I'm imagining that they said, like, Jesus, it was very scary. But we did it, and this is what happened. In the same way, our Connect group, as cozy and fun as it is within our little community, we're not called to stay in there. We're not called to only look at ourselves and be cozy with like-minded Christians. It is very easy to think like that. Us, Christians, cozy in our Connect group versus the world, scary out there. Oh, sin, bad. We are here learning from Jesus, becoming more like him, great, bad. That is not the reality. We are all sinful. We all need Jesus. There's no us versus them, other gesture, but there's no us versus them. There's all of us. So in our Connect group as well, we're called to look outwards. I'm not saying to you that every month all of your Connect group should take a soapbox, stand on the corner of the street and yell, Jesus is coming, repent now. Because I highly doubt that will be effective these days. But it is a matter of a mindset of looking out. Pray for the people around you. Love your neighbor, help them. Do you have a friend who needs to move? Good, you have a bunch of people in your Connect group who have helping hands and would love to come and help. Do you have a neighbor who just gave birth? Good, you have 8 people ready to make a meal. Do you have a colleague who is struggling with something, going through a rough time? You have 8 prayer warriors with you to pray for them. It's a matter of looking out. Have a social evening, invite friends. Invite friends who have never been to church. It doesn't have to be soapboxes on the corner of the street, but it is a matter of not staying inwards. We're not called to become more like Jesus just so we can feel good about ourselves. We've talked about this in the summer as well. We are called to be salt and light. We're called to become more like Jesus. Why? Because the world out there needs to see God. And they will see God in us, and they will be baptized into God. They will come into relationship with God. But we need to become more like Jesus. Not so I can tell myself, good job, Laura, but so that people will look and see a part of God in us. Now, I talked a lot about how challenging it can be being in a connect group, it's also a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We get challenged, but it's a fun way to be challenged. I don't want you to be discouraged. I hope you are encouraged. Because through all of this, you get to learn from Jesus. You get to know him more. You get to build on that relationship with him. Like how my son knows if I look like this, I'm angry. If I look differently, he's about to be put in the corner. We don't always need words. How cool is that to have that with God? We can just know him. We look him in the eye and we know, that's my God. But sometimes it takes a little bit of challenging to know someone, right? In my marriage as well, we had some fights with Simon to get to know him better. Don't fight with Jesus, but fight with one another so you get to know Jesus more. Our vision for Connect groups is connect to God, connect to people. It's that relationship and that learning. We connect to God by reading his word, by studying it, by applying it, and through prayer. Every Connect group, we should pray because we learn about Jesus, but we also talk with Jesus. And we connect to people by having a group of friends, by allowing them to speak into our lives, to see the mess, and to be a mirror for us. And by looking outwards, not only inwards people, outwards people as well. We look outwards, beyond the walls that we're in, beyond the house that we're in, beyond the corners of our Connect group. We look outwards. The question today is that I want to put forward for you is not why Connect groups, not why should you join a Connect group. It is much bigger. It is, are you a disciple and are you making disciples? And I've talked a lot about challenging, so I'm going to challenge you once more. We're going to have worship soon. But after that, and before the coffee, so none of you get coffee before you've done this. Where's Leah? Have you heard? Don't give people coffee if they haven't done this. After worship, you're going to look around and try to find a person who was born in the same month as you. Doesn't have to be the same year. Let's not be crazy. But I was born in January, so I would go out and try to find someone who's also born in January. Oh, almost. Already you're looking around, right? And then you're going to sit together with that person and talk and try to find something else you have in common. I would say, hi, I'm born in January. Oh, you're also awkward? Great. Same. Do you also have never broken any bones? Yes. Great. Same. Is it because you drink a lot of milk? No. I hate milk. End of conversation. But you try to find common ground. You try to find things that you have in common. Try to get to know the person in front of you. You can look for your people after the worship, okay? I'm happy you're all excited, but wait until after the worship. And then, when you get to know the person, good. Once you've gotten to know the person, now come the deep questions. What does it mean for you to be a disciple? And are you making disciples? How are you doing that today? I know these are deep questions. That's why we have a little bit of fun questions beforehand. Try to find common ground. Try to get to know the person before you bombard them with deep questions. But after discussing these two, there's coffee and cookies.